You look nervous. Don't be. I mean, the most she can do is shoot you. Come on, it's just a bullet. I mean, if it doesn't hit any major organ, you'll probably be fine. Relax, okay? Look, we won't be here long. As soon as OT delivers the package, you can leave. So I'm guessing you never figured you'd be stuck in a small, declining bar with a cop, waiting to meet up with a bunch of gangsters, huh? Well, you know what they say. Sometimes good people do bad things. And that's, of course, getting wildly ahead of ourselves here and assuming that you are good. Anyway, how about some upbeat music to calm you down? Just hang on, just a minute. Oh wait, maybe one second. Now this was a good one. Did you catch it? Of course you caught it. Whoa, wait, what? How? I mean, wait, does that mean that you don't know about the guy? The guy from the game? What? Okay, come closer. Just come closer. The where is the Jamhuri Park Stadium. The when is December 11th, 1965, a Saturday afternoon. The who is the Harambee Stars of Kenya versus the Black Stars of Ghana. The why? Well, let's just say that some genius, overconfident in the capabilities of a young nation, had seen it fit to not only have the idea, but to table it and to see it followed through. The how? Now that, my friends, is a very good question. That is a question that every Kenyan in the jam-packed stadium was asking themselves. How can one team be this good? How can one team be this bad? How did 5 goals pass a goalkeeper just like that in broad daylight? Kwani ana macho? How is it not halftime yet? How? Now, among the guys asking the how was a dude who had never been to a football match before. His name is John Stone Kamauani. He also went by the stage name of Jomo Kenyatta. You might have heard him. This really fancy job, first president of the Republic of Kenya, Kenyatta. Now, Kenyatta had only been president for a year and a few months. His fancy seat was in the shade, surrounded by other dignitaries. It is to one of these dignitaries that he turned to when the ball found itself to the back of our net for the 5th time and asked, Kwale, Kipchoge Keino wako wapi? Surely, he cannot run these fellows. Now, see, Kipchoge had already made a name for himself in the Olympics. Now, the man around the president exchanged glances. You could see it on their faces. Should we tell him? No one wanted to be the one to break the news. And one of them decided, kwani kondini. He got close to the presidency and said, Mzee, Kipchoge, ni wa kukimbia. Hawezi cheza mpira. The president had barely swallowed the news when goodness gracious, 6 goals in the first half, and we have what, 1 goal? Jesus Christ! The president was so furious that he rose and left the stadium in a fuss. It is said that he never went to another football match from that day. Now, I know what you're thinking. Kumbe Harambee Stars wamekuwa bure kutoka kitabu. And that, my friend, is where you're wrong. You see, our national team has had its days. We had beaten Scotland 3-1 barely 2 years before in the game celebrating the independence. But then, to be fair, we were quite in the mood to beat white people in 1960. So why were the Ghanaians being such a problem then? Well, aside from the fact that they were not white, they were also very, very, very good. See, Kwame Nkrumah was using them as an example of African capabilities. They had not broken camp in many months, had spent as much time as they could training together, and they had just won the Africa Cup of Nations for 2 years in a row. I mean, our team wasn't that good, but it was good. It had the likes of Joseph Were, Moses Ambani, Tom Sabuni, Jonathan Niva, Joseph Okeo, Anthony Mukabwa, Nicodemus Arudhi, William Chege Ouma. It had players who would become legends. I know you've probably heard about that legend. The legend about Dennis Oliech. How he once hit a ball so hard from the middle of the field that it broke a goalpost while still in Kakamega High. That's cute. That's very, very cute. Especially, it's almost as cute as that one time in 1997 at Afraha, when Victor Onyango hit the ball so hard from one goalpost, it went across the field over the other goalpost and out of the stadium. Now, some say that they saw the ball splash into Lake Nakuru. Others say that it disappeared into the mists and fell into the Menengai crater. None of that matters, especially when compared to what one of the strikers in the early Harambee Stars team is said to have done. His name is Joe Kadenge. Do you know of him? Yes. Yeah, even the devil knows Joe Kadenge. So the legend goes this way, yeah? So one day, after a long time of training, his team were making fun of each other and bragging about their exploits with the ball. Now, none of them wanted to admit that the other was better. So they decided to do a simple test to see who the best really was. They would kick the ball upwards, straight, then time it using a stopwatch to see whose shot would stay in the air the longest. Simple and fair enough, right? So they started kicking the ball upwards, timing it and patting each other on the back. By the time Joe Kadenge strolled by, the record that had been set was, let's say 22 seconds. Okay? And since they were feeling pretty dope about themselves, they decided to challenge him too. Now Kadenge took a deep breath, bounced the ball on the ground a bit, and kicked it in a way that only he could. The ball did not even shoot up. It rose almost in slow motion, steadily. Now everyone concluded that it would be back in 5 seconds. They even started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The ball was not back yet. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Still hasn't beat the record, right? I mean, 22 seconds is a lot of time to have a ball in the air, right? Oh, you guys stopped counting? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, Whoa. They counted for 5 more seconds, then 30, then a minute, then 5, then 15. Then they decided to go get something to eat because obviously Kadenge had played a trick on them and the ball had fallen somewhere they could not see, right? Wrong. Now some say that the ball hit the ground 3 hours later. It bounced once and was never, ever seen again. I mean, they say that it hit the ground with so much force that it left a crater. Now, that crater was later filled with water, and that is where people ride boats at Uhuru Park nowadays. Now, Kadenge is, if not the best, among the best people to have ever played for a national team. But we all know about the man who once held that team together. His name is Mahmoud Abbas. It has been argued that Mahmoud is the best goalkeeper to ever play for this country. He was so good that one time a volley actually, was hit from the box with so much force that you could hear it humming as it tore through the air. A player on the bench even swears that he saw sparks and had a bit of thunder. The whole stadium was silent. All the fans were sure there was no way that ball could be stopped, and the coach was ready to resign. There was only one person in that whole stadium who wasn't scared: Mahmoud Abbas. He was still out, just thinking of home, thinking of the beach, thinking of ice cold party juice. And when the ball got close enough, he stretched out his hand and caught it. Now, that needs to be clear. He did not punch it. He did not deflect it. He did not just stop it. He caught it with one hand, the way you would catch an orange tossed at you. Now, some say that his eyes were closed. He was still thinking of that Ukwaju. Then there's Elijah Lidon, the center forward. Yo, how many of you have watched Shaolin Soccer? Hands. Now there's a high chance that Shaolin Soccer is based on Elijah Lidon. Elijah's right foot is one of the most lethal to ever in the history of football to ever touch a ball. Now, a story is told, a legend, of how his team had played bravely but had been pushed to a corner by the opponent. Then a chance at redemption presented itself. A penalty. The one penalty that no one wanted to take. Then Elijah Lidonde took a step forward. He slowed down his breathing, slowed down his heart rate, took stock of the humidity. Calculated the distance it would take the ball and the speed it would take the ball to fly to the back of the net at an elevation angle of 12 degrees, with the goalkeeper standing 1 meter, 12 centimeters, and 4 millimeters closer to the left post than the right one. Then took his shot. Now, some say that there was a loud bang as the ball rose, scorching the grass as it went. There was lightning that flashed in the sky and the winds went silent. No one had ever seen a ball spin on its own axis as fast as that one did. Others say that scientists would later claim that it was in sync with not only the spinning of the Earth, but that of the whole galaxy too. The ball went straight towards the goalkeeper, who was standing still blind from the flash of lightning. It hit him, tore his jersey, went through his belly, ripped his spine out through his back, and proceeded to tear the net as well as it disappeared into a wormhole on its way to an alternate universe. The goalkeeper fell down and died on the spot. People were so horrified that the government was forced to intervene. Elijah Lidonde was ordered by the police, by the judiciary, by the parliament, by all the arms of the government, by even the government printer, to never, ever use his his right foot again. It is said that he's now thin.
All right, I've given you 10 seconds to get your asses up and out of my seat before I start bumping that into you. 10,
No.
9.
Come in.
Why are they not moving?
Come in, just relax.
Missy?
Yeah.
Who the hell are these people and what are they doing in my bar?
Look, I mean, they're okay. They're here with me, okay? So they're okay.
Who are they? And why do they look like that?
Like what?
Like they talk too much.
Look, I mean,
You know what we do to snitches?
they are here for the same reason we are, okay? They're here to get rid of the evidence.
I don't trust them.
Yo, but you trust me, right? You trust me? Now, hand me the gun.
What happened to trust?
I mean, I can't let you sit here with a big gun after you threatened to kill them 2 seconds ago. Okay? Just hand it over. Thank you very much. Now we are going to sit here like civilized people. Come closer to the video. Right there. Like civilized people while I finish telling my story to these people. Can you imagine they don't know about the guy from the game in 1965?
That makes sense.
Anyway, the guy, Elijah. No, we already did that. Yeah. The guy, Nicodemus Arudhi. Gor Mahia's answer to AFC's Joe Kadege. He had nurtured his gifts on the dusty pitches of Kaloleni, Bahati, and Mudurwa, inspired by his older brother, Silas Gwada, who had played for the national team in the Gosage Cup of the 1940s. Now he wanted to be a footballer, and his star started really shining when he joined Luo Union. He was part of a magnificent team that went ahead to win the second KPL season of 1965. A team that had the likes of Fred Siranga, who is on that team? Stephen Yongo,
Yes.
and James Sianga.
Sianga.
Yeah,
Sianga,
James
Sianga.
It was a magnificent team. But then this was before internal politics came in and forced the team to split into Luo Sports Club and Kisumu Stars. And for 2 years, 2 whole years, that split allowed AFC Leopards to dominate the league. But on February 17th, 1968, they put their differences aside and came back together to form the legendary, the earthquake, the hurricane, the monster! They came back as Gor Mahia. But even before and through these sanctions, Arudhi was defining himself as one of the finest players of his generation. He got inducted into the national team when he was barely 20 and made unforgettable appearances. He was a slender, powerful man with impeccable dribbling skills and unrivaled ball control. He was too good, too nimble, too coordinated as a defender, turned midfielder, turned striker, who had even tried goalkeeping. Arudhi was a one-man team. He was the definition of a pro. And combined at the front with a dude who has been termed as the best striker that Kenya ever produced before Dennis Oliech, Mr. William J.K. Ouma, they were simply unstoppable. But back to where they were. On that Saturday afternoon of 1965, playing against the best team in Africa and probably the world. 6 goals down already. It happens that there were men with big guns during that match with Ghana. And they were not here to protect the president. Now, you guys want to know why they were there? Yes. Do you? Yes. Like, do you really want to know why they were there? Come on, look, I can end this story right here. I mean, with a happy ending. No, guns never come with a happy story, people. Now, are you absolutely sure you want the other side? Toto akidilia wembe.
I imagine right now that you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of people who accept what they hear because they are expecting the story to end. Ironically, that's not far from the truth. Do you believe in fate? Let me tell you why you're here, Alice. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you can feel it. You felt it your entire life, like there's something missing. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to us. Do you know what I am talking about? Do you want to know what I am talking about? Fanyeni hivi. Fanya hivi. Niliamka asubuhi sana nikuze nipige haso. Na mimi niliraiziwa 844 nimezoea Kora Sansas. Do you want to know? Arudhi's story is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you open your window or when you switch on your television. You can see it when you go to work, when you go to church, or even when you're stopped for a security check. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. That you, my friend, are a suspect. And just like everyone else, you were born into this world of suspicion, into a world that you cannot see, or taste, or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can afford to ignore what this prison is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there's no going back. You take the blue pill. This story ends, we move on to the next one, and you believe whatever it is you want to believe. You take the red pill. We stay in Islands and find out just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I am offering is the truth. Tumesikizana. Bora Sansas. Blue pill or red pill?
You guys actually chose to go into the fucked up part of this story. Well, for the guys who chose the other pill, welcome to the pain of democracy. Anyway, since you've made your choice, let's get back to it. Our guy, Nicodemus Arudhi. Now, two weird things happened before that match with Ghana started. The first one, Peter Oronge, the national coach, just disappeared without a trace, and he never explained where he went. The second one of the players appeared in the escort of armed bodyguards. Oh, this player was none other than our star, Nicodemus Arudhi. You see, he'd been living in this estate where you couldn't just walk out without armed bodyguards. And by estate here, I mean Kamete Maximum Security Prison. You see, Arudhi was dangerous both on the field and off the field. He was a footballer by day and a robber by night. I mean, Nicodemus Arudhi wasn't even his real name. He was David Odhiambo, a.k.a. Daniel Odhiambo, a.k.a. son of Kedoa, a.k.a. David Dhiambo, a.k.a. Daniel Nicodemus, a.k.a. son of Owiti, a.k.a. Owa. They were either plays of his name or his father's name. Even Arudhi was a nickname. This guy was ridiculous. But you see, in times of crisis, a country needs all its sons and daughters, even the wayward ones. Now, Arudhi was born in 1944 to a family of 5 girls, 5 boys and 3 girls. His father was an engineer for the Kenya Railways. The family lived in Mudhurwa Estate. Now, the father died in 1946. And the next year, his mother started a restaurant business in Shaurimoyo to take care of the family and to use the money to take Arudhi to school. But Arudhi wasn't very excited about school. And that became clear the day he came home from Church Missionary Society Primary School in Pangani, where he was in class 5, and said that he was done with education. Now his family tried to speak to him. They tried, but they couldn't get through to him. He had always been a stubborn child. Arudhi wanted to play football. Now, out of school, and with a lot of time to spare between training sessions, Arudhi made a few friends in Shaurimoyo, Bahati, and Kaloleni, or as they were known then, Shauri, Baha, and Ulolo. Islam's people in the house? They were kufu! They were kufu! Now, the family even went as far as taking him to the Kafete-approved school. He came out more hardened. You see, while Arudhi was fine-tuning his skills on the pitch, he also rose up the ranks on the other side of the law, getting arrested several times, at least once, for murder. By 1965, at the age of 21, for God's sake, prison wardens knew his name pretty well. But Arudhi was still very serious about that decision he made in class 5. He never missed training sessions, unless he was in prison or had to jump over the wall because cops were after him. And cops seemed to always be after him. But he would always outwit them. And that is how, on that day in 1965, Jomo Kenyatta, the President of the Republic of Kenya, in an achievement that I doubt anyone else has or will ever be able to claim, was forced to sign a special presidential pardon, allowing Nicodemus Arudhi, aka Daniel Nicodemus, aka son of Owiti, aka Daniel Diambo, aka David Odhiambo, aka son of Kedowa, special pardon to play in that game against Ghana. The guards stayed with him in the stands the whole time. Just think of this in terms of your school outings, but with a few guns to make sure you watch your football manners at lunchtime. They stayed in the stands the whole time. And after the game, which we lost 13-2, by the way. You thought 6-1 was the worst that could happen. Turns out they were just being nice because our president was around. Once he left, they sent 7 more goals to the back of our net. Feels terrible, right? And that's what Arsenal fans go through every day. Anyway. So, Nicodemus. So after the game, they escorted him right back to prison. You see, his colleagues in the national team knew he didn't rely on the bigger allowances they got from the government. He would always sneak out from training camp, do robberies in industrial areas, and come back in the morning without being spotted by the guards. Once, in 1976, when Gor Mahia made a stopover in Pahi on their way to their African Club Cup Championship, they were going up the lift. And in the lift was this middle-aged white man who was crying his eyes out. Someone, he claimed, had stolen his expensive suit. The players minded their own business and proceeded to the room they were supposed to be chilling in. A few minutes later, Nicodemus Arudhi walked in looking dapper as fuck. He turned to the team and told them, I say, other guys just laughed and told him to remove it because the owner was looking for it. But that is as close as they ever came to chastising him. The one person who was probably close enough to Arudhi to guide him was his friend Ambrose. Ambrose called him Dan, had grown up with him and knew his entire family. He would later describe his friend as a chilled out dude who didn't speak a lot and would sometimes just stay away from everyone, moody, reading James Hadley Chase novels. Now, Dan knew Arudhi liked a good time. She was with Arudhi when Arudhi was living his best life. But even then, she would rarely stay for 5 minutes in one car. He was restless and would only use one taxi. They would always go out with Arudhi and Arudhi's girlfriend, but after a few minutes, he would excuse himself and disappear. Sometimes he would come back, sometimes they never saw him until the next day. Ambrose realized just how dangerous his friend could be on 2 occasions. The first time, a gun just fell out of Arudhi's sock. I don't know if that's a thing you and your friends have, but it shocked Ambrose. But he dismissed it. He assumed he needed it for protection, being famous and all. The second time, a fan booed Arudhi during a game. He marked his physical appearance. And a few days later, he spotted that same fan drinking at a pub in Kaluleni. He ordered a drink, chilled out, waited for him to go and relieve himself, then followed him to the toilets and beat the shit out of him, literally, then disappeared, leaving the man on the floor, screaming for help. Ambrose could only stare, speechless. And so, it is Ambrose who was with Arudhi on that day, the fateful day, June 20th, 1981. 16 years after the 13-2 defeat. They were just chilling outside the Shorimoyo restaurant, talking about good old times, when suddenly they noticed a shadow had fallen over them. They rose up, squinted, and found that a group of men had surrounded them. The men introduced themselves as police officers, and they asked Arudhi to follow them to Shorimoyo police station and to report to the CID headquarters. And before they left, they ransacked the house, turning everything upside down, without revealing what they were looking for, but they found nothing. But this time, Ambrose was used to seeing his friend picked up by the police. He would always return, so he didn't even lose sleep over it. But the next day, on a Sunday, he started feeling a bit uneasy. On Monday, he was properly worried. On Tuesday, he just couldn't take it anymore. So he looked for a senior police officer friend and asked him about the whereabouts of Arudhi. The police officer told him that it was a government issue. He didn't know much. All he knew was that the officers who had come had been on Arudhi's trail for 3 days, and that when they picked him up, they had gone and killed him. Ambrose was stunned. He followed another police officer to City Mortuary, where they showed him the body of a man with a tag written male adult picked up from the mortuary. You see, most of Umo was bush back then. Most of the houses had not been built. Arudhi had been shot from the back. His face was so disfigured that he was barely recognizable. Ambrose went back to his family, Arudhi's family, and broke the news. His mom and his sisters fell down, yelling and crying. Their lastborn had been killed by the law. So they started funeral arrangements. And most of the neighbors and friends wouldn't even show up. They suddenly forgot about the football star they admired. Now they didn't want to be associated with a man who had been arrested several times and got shot by the police. The only players who showed up were William Chege Ouma and John Hatari Otieno. They buried Nicodemus Arudhi in near Siaya. When a young James Orengo brought the death up in Parliament, he was dismissed with vague answers from the then Minister of the Office of the President, Isaac Kipkorir Salat. He claimed that Arudhi had volunteered to go and show them where he hid his guns. And when they got there, he tried to escape and they shot him from behind. His family would later sue for the extrajudicial killing. They sued the government and got 250,000 shillings as compensation, which they say is not justice. Does this sound like justice to you? Someone ended the life of Nicodemus Arudhi at the age of 37. Some say that the officer who pulled the trigger was none other than Patrick David Shaw. And he would become synonymous with that, you know? Patrick Shaw. The one person who would just shoot you without compassion.